Hello?
There's a lot of noise coming from you, Bobby.
There's nothing on CC. There.
Right,
I don't know.
need to do that as well. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What's that noise, Bobby?
I'm just closing all the apps, so I might
Right. Right, what I will do is I will put a link up in the chat for the people that's there. They are more than welcome to come in, regardless who you are. And have whatever say you want to say. Now, I do know that there is one or two people that have slight little grievances that they might want to wear.
Who's that Time Lord?
Somebody that comes on the chat on the thingy. Paste. Send. Pin. Right, if anybody would like to come on, the link's there. I don't even mind the little trolls coming on and have their little say. Yes, you're right there, Nikki. Liz Truss. I think she's going to be the shortest Prime Minister in history. What do you think, Bobby?
I think they just want to get Boris back. That's what they're doing it for.
You think she'll have to get Boris back?
Yeah, that's what I think the uproar's about. They want Boris back.
Well, I don't know, because, to be honest with you, the wooden lady, you're right there, Time Lord. To be honest with you, I don't think Boris can never come back because he's resigned. But to be honest with you, like I said, it seems to be very strange times we're living in.
I don't think all the crap that this country's in with the COVID situation, we need to do something about it. That maybe more taxes or...
Well, she did actually cut the taxes for the top 1%, didn't she?
Yeah, from 45 to 40.
But I think that's backfired on her. I mean, she wiped out, was it 45, 50% of everyone's pension overnight?
Yeah.
People's houses are, whoever's got mortgages, that's severe risk of losing it. So, to be honest with you, I really can't see her lasting any great deal of time.
First should have done is to get the migrants down. That's what the people are worried about. Then, because we've paid £54 million in France, we're paying so much millions to keep them in hotels, etc., etc.
Well, I don't know about that, because she did say, didn't she, the way to come out of the, well, I'll say, and I'll use the word loosely, the financial crisis we're in,
Yeah,
is to actually allow the migrants to come in free willy-nilly.
and I reckon, no, put the thing down to 40%. Now, in a monetary value, that's a good idea, because lower the taxes, more people spend, more earnings. But what she done is that she's done a lot more than that. So
You're right there, Nikki. That is exactly what she's doing. And I know a few other people that do that, come in, do the dirty deed and run. But that's a all different story for an all different live stream. So there you go. But no, so what do you make of it then, Bobby? What do you make of them wiping out the people's pensions and mortgages?
it's bad because it's not the multi-rich, because they don't give a rat's ass the 300 there and £3,000 there. It's the people on the bedline who, like, they want to things they want to bring up. That's the 70 retirement age that now to about 70. So you've got to. What they should have done is tax the rich, put a windfall tax on the Google.
Well, I can see you're trying to talk, but I don't hear anything.
Who, me?
Yeah.
How could you hear me?
No, I could see your symbol flashing, but there was no sound coming.
Oh. What they want to, what they need to do is put a windfall tax on the energy companies, Google, Starbucks, Amazon, because the people's not paying the taxes as it is, and she wants to start trying to tax people that are already paying the taxes.
I don't hear no background noise, Nikki. So I don't know. I think there could be something going on with Bobby's internet connection. I think there could be something going on with Bobby's internet connection. But it is what it is. I don't know about so much about that, Bobby. What I will say is the green levy needs to be removed from all energy. They need to windfall tax the energy companies because, again, beginning of this month, it's gone up. I mean, my own energy supplier sent me a letter stating, well, they'd actually tell me what I was paying and what it would have normally been this time last year to what it was and what it's going to be this year. And I'll be honest with you, it's fucking scary. It really is scary. So, but yet again, that's just a government for you, isn't it? At the end of the day, they rob from the poor to give to the rich.
And also, TC, this country can't sustain on clean energy. We haven't got the resources. We haven't got the space, and so we wouldn't be able to run on clean energy. It's been proven. Oh, like these people saying, isolate Britain, insulate Britain. Now, houses has got to have the reason why they've got cavity walls, and it's a scientific fact that the house needs to breathe. When about a couple of years ago, the government used to give you £3,000 grant. What happened was child cot deaths went up, asthma went up, depression went up. Just the fact that there was mold, all sorts growing into people in people's houses.
That is true, Bobby. 1 second, Colin. If you've got a camera, can you just put it on for a second, please? You don't have to leave it on. Then I'll add you into the stream. Colin, if you've got a camera, could you just switch it on for a second? You don't have to keep it on, then I will add you into the stream. Well, I'll take the chance, but mind you, I don't care because at the end of the day, I don't really keep any of this stuff, do I? So,
Good evening, my friends. Sorry, I was struggling to get the camera up and running. I did hear your message when you said get the camera on.
that's no worries.
I did hear the message
That's
or
all
the
right.
request.
Well, that's no worries, young man. Right. So, what's your take on it?
I think everything's a mess. And I have to be honest, I don't think whoever takes over is going to do a better job. I think even if we had a change, I think we'd just get a different set of chaos, to be honest. I'm worried about my mortgage and paying bills like everybody else, but we need to come up with something. And as for the green, I think before we can go carbon neutral, you've got to have the technology, and I don't think we've got the technology at the moment.
Well, I don't think we've got the technology. Now, I don't know what part of the country you're from, but I live on the East Coast, and I look out over the North Sea, and I see more wind turbines than you can shake a stick at. I mean, they're like they're like mushrooms in a field. So
Wakefield, West Yorkshire is where I'm from, but the thing is it's like even places like Glastonbury, which were having these electrical vehicle stuff, but using diesel generators to charge them. And also, if we're going to go carbon neutral but import coal from other countries or gas, are we carbon neutral? I don't think so, really, are we?
I honestly don't think we'll ever be carbon neutral. I really don't believe that. Not in my lifetime, and I don't suppose in your lifetime. Again, we have a lot of we have a lot of rivers and so forth in this country, and a lot of you could use hydropower, which we always have, water flowing in this country. When you take you'll be familiar with the neck of your woods, the River Humber.
Yeah.
It's a tidal river. You get 6 hours a day of the tide coming up, 6 hours a day of the tide going down, 1 hour of flash water, so it's 1 hour a day that river will not be producing electricity. Then another 6 hours and 6 hours, you get 2 tides a day, obviously. So I've seen other technologies very similar around the world that does it. So why don't we do it?
Well,
can I say if you got wind wave power, get the energy from the waves, what's happening? It's causing other problems. It's how can I put this? It's messing up the rhythm of the sea. If you put a big fucking machine in the sea to get wind wave power, tidal wave, etc., you're messing with the rhythm of the sea. It's like when the wind farms. Now, the one where you are, to say, it's only got enough power to give 1,500 houses. You set this wind turbines to the height, the farthest the eye can see. It's only given 1,500 houses power, and also it's what it's causing. It's causing a lot of environmental damage as well. Birds there's sort of tens of thousands of birds die each year due to the fact of wind turbines. So you've got to look at, is it the amount we getting out of it to the amount that we put it into this? It's a cost effective? No. It's a environmentally effective? No. So we can't live on any sort of green power in this country because we haven't got the space for in the first place, and it's causing havoc with our wildlife as well.
Can I just add as well? TC mentioned water and wave power. I think Scotland looked into this, and Scotland put a proposal together because apparently there's some places in Scotland, and they found that there were, as much as there were benefits, there were lots of flaws with it as well. Which is why I don't think Scotland it kicked off in Scotland.
Right,
because it's caused a lot of damage to the seabed and the wildlife in the sea as well.
Yeah.
So
right, I understand that, but when I say hydropower, I don't mean by damming her out like that. It's quite hard to try and explain, but basically what they do is they build what looks like a big well.
Yeah.
And it's a vertical turbine. So as the water's rushing past, it rushes down the well, spins the turbine, and spits it out at the other side.
Yeah.
But it doesn't actually block any flow of the river. So it's just
it does,
one or two
it
of those.
TC. It does.
No, it's not
a
dam.
It causes damage to the cycle of the river and or the sea.
Yeah, I understand that, Bobby, but what I'm referring to, it's not a dam. They do not dam the rivers. So if you imagine taking, let's just say a bucket and putting a turbine inside the bucket, putting that over in the river somewhere, so the water is not being dammed, the water's flowing down that and spinning the turbine and spitting it out at the other end, but every other part of the river is still got its normal everyday flow.
It doesn't, TC causes figure waves as well. It's caused a lot of damage. It's been proven over and over again. It causes a lot of damage to the environment.
Well, either way, there's something needs to be done because we just can't cope with the way that's what's going on. Like I says, my electric bill, according to my estimates, that's going to be this year. It's going to be about another £2,000 more this year than what it would be next year. Evening, Brian.
See, it's Brian. It's Brian. Brian. PC.
No, Brian PC. Yeah, he's in the chat.
Hi, Brian, mate. Are you all right?
Hi, Brian.
All right.
Well, I'm multitasking. I know I am moderator in the chat, but the chat was dead until Brian's just said hello, really. But I'll keep my eye. How are you, Colin?
I'm all right, thanks.
Good stuff. Nice for you to join, mate. There's a lot to discuss with regards to the government. You'll just have to keep me up to speed with what you're talking about at the moment, because there was a gap where I've had to go on StreamYard, so I'm not with the conversation. So I'll sit quietly for a minute.
Well, basically, we're referring to renewable energy and hopefully trying to batter an agreement between us, what we think, which makes no difference what we think, but what we think would be a feasible alternative.
Firstly, TC, we should get nuclear power now, or bioenergy, because bioenergy gives you more energy than the wave power or wind power. If 2015, Nick Clegg said, it's pointless to build a new nuclear power stations because they won't come online to 2021. Now, we're in this shit because they never built anymore.
Wow.
Is Drax bio? Isn't Drax power station bio?
No, I thought that was nuclear, wasn't it?
Drax isn't, no. It's not nuclear. I don't know if it's bio or not, but it's certainly not nuclear.
I think it's bio. It's got I think it's bio.
I think you're right, Bobby. I think it is bio.
Well, I don't know.
What accent is that, Colin? It does ring a bell.
I'm Yorkshire.
Yorkshire, yeah, of course.
Yorkshire.
Yorkshire. What's it? Tony's in Humberside with you. If I say Humberside, he says it's not Humberside, it's Humberside. So you're not
Humberside, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a bit more inland than Humberside.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with Humberside.
Some of my mates live in Humberside. I used to work in Humberside in another life.
Did you? Whereabouts?
Well, I did night speed, so I did a lot of parcel delivery around Hull, Sutton. Is it East Lancashire Road or something? That were a bit confusing.
I'm not too far from you, Colin. I'm in Lancashire. Not too far. Brian PC has been watching documentaries all day. He's a man after my own heart. It's the only good stuff on YouTube, mate, to be honest. Definitely.
Yeah, he's certainly one of the decent ones, is Brian PC, that I can tell you. He certainly is. But no, I don't know, to be honest with you. Like I says, my estimated bills, I can't find the letter now, but I was actually talking to Nicky the other day on the phone about what it was last year's use to as from the first of this month, that what they're estimating my bill's going to be, and it was eye-watering. It literally, seriously, I'm not joking. Yeah, give me a rope, I'll just go and end it now, because basically that's what they're doing to everyone.
Yeah, I think the cap at 2,500. I think a lot of people have falsely got confidence now, but like we pointed out, the cost per unit is so phenomenal. Everybody's still going to have to be extremely cautious when it comes down to the usage. So it'll be very, very expensive. So I sit there now in a jumper. If my 17-year-old daughter complains, I'm like, put another jumper on, get a pair of woolly socks on. I'm not putting the heating on. We'll save that till it's frosty weather.
I know you're saying they've capped it at £2,500, but they haven't actually capped it at £2,500. What they've done is they've capped how much they can charge per kilowatt and how much they can charge per day standing charge.
Yeah.
So an average house, what they've done is an average person, I don't know, let's just say an average person, 2-bedroom house, 2 people and a child. This is how much they use per year. So right, we're capping it at, we'll cap it at this. So that's how much it will be for that person roughly per year. Now, let's just say we get a really, really cold winter. That heating gets switched up. So that's more kilowatts per hour being used. So that £2,500 cap is totally gone out the window.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You've still got to be extremely cautious. Well, my plan is I'm not going to turn my heating on. I'm going to come to your house more, Tony. Use your heating.
I'm going to have to come fire up the garden and chop a tree down.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we've talked about this. If you were already installed with, say, solar panels for your electricity, if you have a log burner, these people are laughing. Unfortunately, for the majority of us, these things are expensive, especially the solar panels, and you're just not geared up to have alternate forms. But I don't know if you lot have touched on when I was away about the wind farming. I mean, I can fully understand the lack and shortage of gas. As Bobby explained, we do produce gas and we have gas, but it's the storage, so hence we sell a lot to France, etc. I can understand that's a commodity that goes, we are using that up. But with regards to the electricity and the wind farms, I remember watching on the BBC News, I think it was last year, a chap who had gone into a village in a third world country and shown them how to generate their own electricity. So that's something people can do on their own streets if they've got the know-how. How they are, I genuinely believe it's about punishing the people from start to finish. This talk about, we're going to turn your electricity supply off 3 hours of probably be an evening when you need it. 3 hours, food's gone off in your fridge, gone off in your freezer. I think it's all about fear and punishment and bringing people down to onto their knees. I really do. There's no explanation for lack of electricity.
And what they're doing now, or one of the things that's been suggested, is this £10, if you use electric off-peak. But that only applies to people that have got smart meters. And smart meters can be more expensive than not having a smart meter.
But Connie, you got to realise something. Off-peak means like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, people's not going to do the washing. Say you live in a flat or in old houses, and you do washing at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Bet your neighbours will have something to say, Bob. I bet your neighbours will have something to say, because mine certainly will.
Yeah. And not only that, it's another way to make people ill, because if you're, say, a mother of 3 children and you're working a job and you feel like you've got to be up at those hours, everything seems geared and designed towards whether it's removing the NHS, the medical, you can't get hold of your GP, there's this, there's that. Yeah, it's just a very slow kill, I think. They've made no secret of depopulation, the agenda of depopulating, and every which way it seems, through fear or making people unwell, the jibby jabby and all the rest of it. It just seems wholly designed to depopulate us.
And also, Nikki, if you run your dryer without being there, it can cause fire or the fluff, whatever, in the dryer.
True, yeah, true, Bobby.
That could cause fire. So you're in bed and the dryer's going. It could be in inferno in a matter of minutes.
They probably know that. That's why they've done it, Bobby.
As well. So they're saying to do it in the middle of the night. Hey, you're going to get a lot of complaints. It could be fire hazard as well.
Absolutely.
But what they did say, they would give people a day's notice for saying, so they could turn around and say, right, Liverpool will tomorrow from the hours of, shall we say, 10 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night to 3 o'clock in the morning, you will not be getting no form of electricity. They did say they will give everybody a day's notice. But what good's that?
Yeah, and they won't do it in sleeping hours because usage is at a minimum then. They will choose peak times like, 6 to 9 p.m., 6 till 10 p.m. when you're trying to feed your kids and use the cooker and all the rest of it. They want to get people where it hurts. So it'll be in those peak usage times when you need these things.
I just think this is just a scare tactic. So the greenies, the lefties want us to go the green, whatever. If you think about this, right, we've got enough oil in the North Sea for hundreds of years. We should have built storage units, storage containers for it. We would have been fine. Instead of we sell it to Germany, France, and we buy stuff back from Russia. That doesn't make sense, does it?
It doesn't, Bobby. Message from Bri PC. Is this the Power Talk channel? My heating's broken because of gas shortage to the boiler. I'm up north. Got an emergency stove for heating. I'm used to the cold. Tip-top thermal underwear. I'm with you on that, Brian. I'm saying to my daughter, pile the layers on, pile the layers on. You should come on, Brian. I know you've been on a chat before. You should come on and join us. Don't be lonely in this side talk. You don't need to put your camera on. We could have a good chat. Because I know you're a cool dude. Come and bring your knowledge to the table. You don't have to if you don't want to, but we'd love to have you.
Well, it's not that. It's also, you've got to look at it from this point of view. All essential heating needs electricity to work. I know it's gas fired.
Yeah, your boiler's
electricity. There's no central heating.
A lot of people are combi and that boiler's plugged into your electric supply and it buggers you.
And you do know, Nicola, it's more cost effective to run your boiler 24/7, send it, turn it on, turn it off.
I did that for years when my daughter was little. I'd turn it on sort of end of September on low and never use the fire for obviously safety reasons and then keep it running for, through till February, really, March.
I just turn the down, so...
Same as your engine, isn't it, in your vehicle? If you're stopping for a short period, it's like these vehicles that are now made to automatically stop and automatically start. When you basically cease, it stops the engine. I mean, that's using phenomenal amount of fuel, isn't it?
Yeah. It uses more fuel to start than it does. In fact, you use as much fuel to start a car as what it does to actually drive a mile. It uses the same amount of fuel.
Yeah.
And these cars, all electric cars, you've got a Tesla, whatever. But you still got to get electricity to charge the batteries up. Where does the electricity? Oh, I'm so green, I've got a Tesla. Yeah, but you're still losing electricity to charge your batteries up. So what's the point of having a Tesla or electric vehicle if you need electricity to charge it up?
They're not economical. I heard you had to run one for 7 years with the way that they're made. You have to run one for 7 years. Well, how many people these days even keeps a vehicle for that period of time?
The other
ridiculous.
thing as well, I don't know if you heard about Glastonbury this year. It was £50 to charge your car for an hour, I believe.
Oh,
And
wow.
they were using diesel generators to charge the electric cars.
Oh, it's laughable. Oh, yay, Brian's coming in. Exciting. I've spoke to Brian on so many channels, on Brian Harvey's channel and the other community that we don't like to speak of. I spoke to Brian on loads of chats, but never spoken to him. So it'd be nice if he could make it on. Put 2 minutes in the chat.
But I think also the people who are on about green energy and the extinction mob and things, I think they're just, as I said earlier, there's not the technology, and I think with the taxes and stuff, people are suffering. And they're talking about, well, global warming, people are going to die. Well, people are going to die because of cold, aren't they, this winter, sorry. How many are going to die of hypothermia? Hi, Brian. I'm assuming you've come on.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Hiya, how you doing?
Good
Hello.
evening.
Mate, there's no such thing as global warming. This what happens this what happens to this earth so many 100 years. We've had how many ice ages? We've had hundreds.
Yeah,
So
they've
it doesn't
proven
matter.
that.
It's getting warm. It used to be in the
Brian, how are you coping there in the cold then? Have you got your thermal undies on there as you sat there chatting with us?
My thermal undies. You hear me okay? You hear me
Yeah, I
okay?
can hear you. Yeah. You Scottish, Brian?
Yeah, I'm up in Edinburgh at the moment. Yeah, it's cold. You know, the boiler. My friend Frankie's a heating engineer, but he lives up the road, up the top of the hill. I wasn't going to call him, but yeah, there's a few issues. My boiler keeps breaking down, and I don't want to mess with it. So because I'm not like
No, I
gas safe,
wouldn't.
you know. So
Yeah,
but I
absolutely.
used to fix everything else at home. Apart from gas, you know, gas and plastering, those were my weaknesses, you know. Just never got
Yeah, I mean,
into them.
most people can wire a plug. I wouldn't like to say about the new generation. I don't think my daughter's 17. I said to her, she wanted to fix the situation that we were having argument-wise. I said, you kids, you can't even change a bloody light bulb. But yeah, our generation, hopefully we can wire a plug and do all simple electric things, can't we, etc.
Oh, I don't know, my daughter's 30, so.
Right. Is it a combi boiler you've got, Brian?
It's a combi, yeah. It's got E133 or something. It says there's a lack of gas going to it or something. So no idea. Yeah, I looked it up, the code, and it's the gas isn't being supplied to it. So I don't know why.
It's just your hot water, I'm assuming. Is it that you struggle?
No,
Are you boiling
hot,
kettles?
it's hot water and heating. But I mean, I'm used to it. You know, I do without heating most of the year, apart from the winter, and then I'll have it on at about 18, 20, depending on how cold it is. Like sometimes when it's -5 or whatever, I'll put it up a couple of degrees. You know.
Yeah, well, you guys get it a bit chillier, don't you, in Scotland? I mean, it's always cold, isn't it? The north, the north.
It's icebergs. Yeah, it's really cold. Down in, like, for instance, if you were down in Kent, it would be freezing. You know, it'd be cold in the winter. I've lived in Kent, so that's South England. So yeah, it would be cold. But I've also had like temperatures up here -15 and more with wind chill. So it's pretty cold.
Bless him, he's got cold weather, sorry to interrupt, but no bloody boiler. And on top of all of that, Bri, you have to put up with Nicola Sturgeon. So honestly, get my sympathy.
My dad used to drive
sympathy with that nutter.
My dad used to drive her mum to the shops. My dad was a taxi driver. He used to drive her to the shops, and he called her a slag. That was it. What? Sorry. He repeated what her mother said. That's how she got where she is. So there you go. I'm starting.
What did she say? We're intrigued now. What did Mum say?
Well, the mother, my dad he was a taxi driver. He had a few cars on the road, just like kind of local, not like a black hack, you know, one of these private car companies. So he used to drive he used to pick her up in the afternoon or morning, whatever, and and take her home in the afternoon. And she said to him that I think the exact words that he used was, "So how's your daughter doing? She's doing well, isn't she?" And the mother replied, "Oh, she's a slut," something like that.
Oh my
That was her mother.
gosh.
Yeah, she's a
So
slut.
the mother knows what she's like. Yeah.
So
Wow.
this was years ago. You got to remember, this is not today.
Yeah.
This was a
Before she was
long
in
time
power.
ago.
Yeah.
And my dad had the impression that she would just do things to get her own way. And I don't know if there's any truth in that, but that's what my dad's telling me. So
Wow.
yeah, I
So
mean,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
From the horse's mouth, we know she's a CUNT.
Well,
Got to be careful on YouTube.
well, that's someone's mother talking about their daughter. What mother
know.
wouldn't say something like that if there was no truth in it?
To a virtual stranger, yeah, when you're not wound up in an argument. We've all said things in heat of the moment. But
And
God, yeah, that is
this was a
telling.
regular occurrence. You know, this was a regular occurrence. So it's like, but you know, this would. I don't think my dad would lie about that.
No.
You know, like this was before she even got to this stage. This was years ago. You know, so yeah, I'm not saying that someone is that way for a long time. She could have had some sort of illness, you know.
Well, if she's a
But
total CUNT, she's in the right place now. Because let's face it, what member of parliament, the government, aren't like that? So she's in just the right place.
The thing is with her is she's a one-trick pony. She's got one thing, and whichever way, her career, she's just one thing, and that's it. She's just focused on one thing, nothing else. She don't care about anything else. She just has her agenda, and that's all she wants.
I think she tries to do stuff right, but I think she's got so much kind of like pressure from different things that we won't see. When you're in that sort of power, you know things that we could never know.
True, that's true.
So there's pressures from other directions that we won't know about, and of course, I'm just surmising this because I've never been in that position, right? But from what we know of it, if you were prime minister, you would certainly have a kind of a look into it where, yeah, you'd have your Cobra meeting, right? Well, same thing in Scotland because we've got nuclear bases up here, you know, kind of thing. So we have to have some of these meetings and stuff. So she'll be sort of privy to some things that are going on in respects to that kind of thing. But also there'll be pressures there, but there'll be other pressures, you know. So
I'm with you there. That makes sense. We are quick to judge, aren't we? We see from the outside a lot of situations. What annoys me, Brian, is that they make all the promises under the sun when they want to get into power. I think her wording was very clever because we can't say anything about Nicola now because we've got good old Liz, who obviously we're going to talk about tonight. But she said, "Oh, I'll sort out the taxes." Now, obviously, the general public will assume that that's going to make the common man on the street a bit better off, and she has, but it's mainly, as you can probably see yourself if you've been keeping up to speed with it, it is very much benefiting the rich. And as I put in the comments, they talk in terms of this trickle thing, don't they, to boost the economy. But facts being facts, the rich probably have everything they need and everything they want already. So in reality, I think it's proven that this trickle of boost to the economy is no use, no ornament. It doesn't work.
Well, my ex is a millionaire, so I can't really, like, even people who've got big businesses and stuff, they're feeling it too. It's not just the guy on the street. For instance, if you've got 20 properties and the taxes are, you know, that might seem like a lot to someone and think, oh, that guy's loaded or that woman's loaded. You know, they've got plenty of money, you know, but that's not how it works. If you're trying to hold lots of properties together, like my exes, and we're still great friends. Don't get me wrong. It's just that our mum and dad had cancer, and both of them died, so she inherited some stuff. But here's the thing: when you're trying to hold properties together, and I would go around and maintain all those properties, and the money that was involved in maintaining those properties is astronomical compared to the rent. So you will see a lot of properties being sold, you know, to make up for it because of all this. So it's kind of like in a way, I see a land grab coming back as well, from what I sort of know of it as well. I see that coming as well.
Yeah, well, you've got it from a different perspective there. What gets me, Brian, is I see wherever I drive now, properties being erected on every bit of green belt that are not first-time buyer properties. These are, immense properties. Well, in my eyes, 4 or 5 bedroom properties.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know if you missed the bit of the chat where Tony was talking in terms of obviously the interest rates now. We're going to be paying, say mortgage is 1,000, so it'll be £1,800, as Tony said. How are people supposed to afford all of these properties that are being built, and I think there's going to be properties left empty. I don't know about yourself.
Well, it's not just the gas thing, with abroad getting pumped all the way, through Europe to us. It's also there's a few other factors that sort of come into it, and it's just went clear in my head what I was going to say. Sorry. It was there was something important I had to say, but yeah, I'll tell you in a minute. You guys chat. I've not.
Yeah, tell me off if I interrupt, because it's my pet hate, and then I do it. Tony tells me off.
I want to say hello to TC anyway. Yeah. So hiya TC, how you doing?
Now then, Brian, I can actually relate to you when on the property market part, because that is it was my business before lockdown. I used to, just in my own city alone, a private landlord, 250 houses. I used to do all his maintenance for him. So you'd get a tenant in, they'd destroy the kitchen. You'd go and put the house right. A cheap kitchen, you're still looking at 1,500, £2,000. And then obviously the rest of the work, the decorating, doors that need replacing, stuff like that. So by the time you're finished, you're talking probably 8, 9, 10 grand worth of damage put right. Yeah, all right, they've lost the month's deposit, but that don't cover even one job basically. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. If you get good tenants, there's good money to be made in private renting if you own the properties. But you only have to get that one bad tenant, and that one bad tenant costs you tens of thousands of pounds.
My friend Ron had 6 properties and 2 cafes, and this guy's a paraplegic, right? So he can't feel, he can move his arms and stuff, but he can't move from his chest downwards. There's just nothing. And he was working in a cafe. He was like Forrest Gump with the things, and he was working in, doing eggs and all that kind of thing. And he had 6 properties, and at once all his tenants, this is a shocker, all his tenants all at the same time stopped paying rent. So he lost, he's been a millionaire a few times in his life, twice, and he lost all his properties bar 2 because of that. When he was just getting people who were unemployed and people who were employed, constantly this flow. And I can see things like that happening because if people need to pay their bills, so they'll figure out a way, if they're on benefits, to get money to pay the bill rather than pay the council. Then they'll get in debt with the council, then the council will get onto them, then it'll be an eviction, then they can't evict them, So it's like robbing from Peter to pay Paul. I can see a lot of that going on, and crime rates going up somehow. There's a lot more to it. It's not a fear factor, it's a reality, because when you need to heat your home or you need to do something, people will take drastic measures, and people will rip out their boiler and start put the old, save the old coal fireplace, if that'll work again. They'll be calling the chimney sweep. So yeah, it's no joke, but they'll be chopping trees down, come winter time.
I had to rip my fire out, guys, because I was sat here a couple of summers ago and I heard a fluttering in the living room, and I thought, oh, where's that coming from? Anyway, it's fluttering. A pigeon, because the chimney isn't sort of wired off at the top, had dropped down and was behind my gas fire. Well, what are you going to do? I had to pull it out. And I've never had that repaired. I got the flipping bird out. Eventually, it was flying around the living room. I had to kind of get it towards the door. I'm like, oh, ow, ow. But yeah, it's still kind of disconnected. And I thought that, even though the area in which I live, you're not supposed to have smoke coming out the chimney, I thought, what bugger's going to notice later? Now I'm giving myself away here live on YouTube, but I thought if you put some logs in that flipping hole there, but that's what it's coming to, Brian, isn't it? It's eat or eat. I mean, how many elderly people on pensions and really old people daren't put the heating on anyway? How are they going to feel now?
It's all old where I live. It's apart from, I've got one guy next door to me who's young, but the rest of us are in our 50s. And one guy's in his 40s. We've got but yeah. So I've got the next block. Yeah, we've got a few, like all older people, 70, 60. And then the what's a block down the road that's got some young people. It's a good mix in families and stuff. So, but that's like a new build. That'll be nice and warm. So, like the house I'm in's not up to code as far as heating. Like the roof is. There's plenty of insulation in the loft. Yeah, I mean, I've got like an old water tank. It badly needs changed. I should really have direct water. Or
Yeah,
something.
just the immersion. Is it like an immersion thing where you heat it up if you need a bath and all that type of thing?
I've still got the switch for an immersion, but that's all been removed. And I've got like a boiler that's in a cupboard and it goes straight out the wall. I've got that fitted, because it was just a cupboard that was there anyway, put it there because it's next to the wall. So I've got that, and that's gone. But the guy was here last week fixing it, and he said, yeah, the water pressure was just turned the pressure up, and the pressure hadn't changed, and it was gone. So he's done something to it. There's something wrong with it somewhere.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it's a pain. I mean, if I looked it up, I could guarantee I could fix it. But if it's a part, probably not. I've probably got to wait till tomorrow. But not everyone is able to do that. Not everyone has internet. Not everyone has the ability or the tools to go and do something like that, or the bottle. You need a good bit of bottle to go and do something like that. You have to know what you're doing, and you have to have gas tape. If you've bought the wrong fitting and just to get heating working.
You'll have to be smelly till tomorrow then, because I was going to say it's bad enough without your heating. You're lucky
I'll be all right for one night.
But it's your hot water you miss, isn't it? I think just having a wash and having a brew and
I've got an electric shower, so that's not too bad. It's like instant, so I'll be fine. So yeah, I've got an electric fire in the front room, but behind that, that's where the boiler used to be. So that's gone. So if I was stuck, this winter or into next year, if the gas doesn't keep flowing, what I can do is turn it into an old fireplace. Just get a grate and everything, and do it that way.
Yeah. In the comments, Time Lord is saying repressurize the boiler from the valve, and it's usually underneath the boiler. I'm not sure what that means.
Normally, they are normally between 1 and 1.5 bar.
Yeah, mine's is it's I'd have to go and check, but it was error code 133. I think there's not enough. I looked it up. There's not enough gas going to the boiler, so that's coming from outside, and it's not freezing outside, so it's not like the gas is frozen.
Your colour gas boiler, are you? You've got colour gas.
I'll just go and check. Actually, you can talk amongst yourselves. We're back.
Time Lord, if you want to jump on, because you were really, really good last week, and I enjoyed the conversation. If you want to jump on, I'll jump back off into the chat, so we're not all talking over each other. I'm quite happy to go back into the chat if you want to have your say on things, because I think you quite enjoyed it last week. It's up to you, mate. If you've got access, if you're busy or your wife's there, you'd rather not, that's fine as well. Sorry, Colin, we've been ignoring you. Do you know anything about boilers? And
no, I've just had my boiler replaced because my water went, and I had a banner with British Gas because they just kept giving me complaint codes and throwing money at me at one point. I said, I still don't give me a boiler though. So I've got camping stuff because I used to do D&V stuff. So I've got lots of bushcraft stuff. So I'll just light a fire pit. I went to Co-op, saw the price of wood and was absolutely shocked. I nearly fell on the floor. So I thought I'll just go on.
No, I was saying I've seen it at the garage. When I go and fill up with petrol, they do the little bags of logs there, and it's something like £8 for a few logs, so that'll keep you warm for half an hour.
That's it. I just thought I'd go chop a tree down for that. So I'll just get the axe and chop a tree down.
Yeah, like spruce and pine and all that all goes up like petrol once it catches. So yeah, you got to watch that stuff. My ex has got a house in the borders, so she uses all that. We've burnt more than just from round the garden than we actually burn in the house in a year. But she uses oil, so it's like £600 for 3 months in the winter.
Ooh,
So
It'll probably work out cheaper now at that,
Yeah.
if it's quite a large property as well.
yeah, it's the
Okay.
aga that heats the house, so that's another solution. But it's getting the oil; it's going up in price. So
You know,
yeah, it's not good.
did you check, Brian? Is it Calagas bowls you're on, mate?
No, I'm not on gas. I'm plumbed in, so it's
have you got gas supply, Brian?
Yeah,
I know it's
yeah,
a bad
yeah,
question,
yeah.
but
yeah. I have. I'm just looking up. It's a Potterton boiler. So I've got error code 133. I'm just looking through the list now. It's an ignition fault. That's what it's saying. So I don't know
Wow.
why it's not igniting.
So your pilot light, I've done a couple of those. If you actually, when you look through your little spiral where you normally see the flame burning.
Yeah, I don't have that. Mine's just like a whole white front. You can't see anything. Yeah, so
well, some of them you do actually have a little like tiny little round glass
window,
thing
viewing window. Yeah,
window you can look through. So basically, if you take the front off yours and come to where your burner is, where your pilot is, you've got the little thermostat that runs from your pilot light up to your motherboard, and it's normally that. They're depending on the boilers, they're anywhere from between 10 to some maybe around £30, and it is literally if you I put it this way, it's so easy. It's just a little nut on one side and clipped on the other, and that is how easy it is.
Yeah, I thought like when the guy came, I said, "There's something still wrong with that boiler." He got it working, but I think it was a quick fix. He just come and got it working again. I says, "Right, that's great." It was really the heating, when the weather changed. I went to get that back on, but the hot water, I could boil a kettle, I could have a shower. So that's not an emergency, but it's just the whole thing, where you've got to go through the whole rigmarole, call him up again, and that's another bill. I'm sure that he'll know that though, so I won't be calling him again. You know what I mean? So I'll call Frankie in the morning.
I'll be honest with you, I've actually been I've actually fixed a boiler in the past. The bloke must have had about 8 or 9 engineers out on it. They replaced the motherboard. They did everything. But the only thing they never ever replaced was the little thermostat. Now, obviously, as you know, that pilot light is always lit on the end of that, and it keeps it hot, and it's telling it, that yes, it's lit, so I'm going to let the gas come through. Now, if that's not reading it correctly, it just will not allow the gas to come through. It is like a safety device, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I got you. I'm with you.
So I'd maybe look. That'd probably be the cheapest thing for you to replace them that. And it's
but Frankie will be sitting one in his van right now. He'll have one in his van right now because he carries loads of spares in his van. So I guarantee he's got one in his van. He'll pop round in the morning. We'll get it fixed. So it's only really one more night, really. I thought I could have fixed it today, but I was sitting watching documentaries. I forgot all about it. Putting my feet up,
What was you watching? Anything good?
Just a whole bunch of nature stuff that I'd never seen before. Just something completely different to what I usually do, pretty much. So yeah.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Brian. That's mainly that's the only thing I really ever watch is documentaries. I don't watch mainstream TV, and I haven't done for more years than I care to remember. I actually do. I like the on YouTube. There's a channel called 3 Documentaries, as in 3. It doesn't cost you anything. 3. They've got loads of good full-length documentaries on their channel.
Yeah, there's a few really nice visual ones on the Netflix channel on YouTube. Again, they're visually impressive, like beautiful. I've watched a few of them. They're pretty cool. So.
Yeah, I think it's the older you get, you're just interested in factual things. I can't be doing the nonsense. I think, I'm on board with the don't pay the pedos at the BBC, so I've not had the telly licence myself for a handful of years now. So it's literally Netflix or YouTube, like documentaries. And me and Tony watched some of the the oldie worldy ones, don't we, Tony? You know, going back in time and how they did things. And we were talking about making nettle tea and all the sort of cures for modern sort of illnesses and illnesses are in nature. And yeah, they're really interesting.
Brian, oh, you baller. You might, or it might be it's through your ignition thing, your little prongs for your ignition to ignite the gas. This normally what happens, like this carbon gets built up on it.
Yeah.
Take a little file and just file them down a bit. That
some
might
emery
work,
paper.
you know.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, an emery paper, something like that might work.
Yeah.
Because they're pretty.
That's what normally happens.
Yeah.
Well, I just hope you get it addressed, Brian, before it gets frosty. Otherwise, I think you're going to be struggling there.
It's not the end of the world. Yeah. Yeah, it's not the end of the world. You know.
At least you've got your electric heater and your electric shower. We'll not feel too sorry for you.
My electric blanket, my electric house. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on that note, what's your take, Brian, on the electric vehicle situation? What do you make of electric cars?
I really don't care about them, to be honest. I really don't. Yeah, I have no interest in electric cars whatsoever. You know, the missus has a little people carrier thing, and you know, she must do like during the lockdown. She hardly moved it at all. She'd go and start the engine once a week, and then recently, like she'll go from house down the road to my house, which is like 300 meters, and that's it. That's pretty much it.
You don't live with her. Oh, you'll have to live together now. The prices are going up.
Well,
have to sort of come together.
Well, yeah, I could type why. Well, we do live together, but I could type why she's not with me a lot of the time. But I don't want to tell the public why.
Smelly feet.
Yeah, yeah. I'll type it in the side chat.
Yeah, it's personal information.
Brian, if you're watching this through StreamYard, there's actually a private chat part in there that only people actually in StreamYard like yourself and Nikki and that can see.
Some things should be sacred, though, Tony. Isn't that what we say a lot these days? There's nothing sacred these days. Yeah,
I've no idea what that means, but Nikki, if you look at the side, the private chat on the right-hand side.
Ah, right, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ah, right, yeah, okay. Now you've said that, I understand it.
Right, so she's not had any jabs or anything like that. So I've got to be really careful. So yeah, I've got this place. This is like my kind of my workplace up here, and then we sort of live down there, because her house is sort of better, you know, for everything she needs, and but because of her condition, I can't really, and she's had it for a long time, probably one of the longest, in Britain, probably. We've tried everything. And yeah, so it's not great, but there you go. You know that's life for you. Yeah. Can't have it all your own way.
Chat and I pressed the back key twice, so I didn't disappear on the back of your news there, Brian. Yeah. I pressed the bloody back key, and it took me out of the chat.
All right. Well,
I sympathise with you, Brian, because
I sympathise with her. You know, I don't feel sorry for me. It's hard. It's got all the issues. You know, not me. I'm fine. I'm okay. You know, it's just
but I know because I've seen somebody. Shall I say? How can I word this? I've actually witnessed somebody. I'll say states that she's been in, which isn't really the correct word or the correct thing, but. It is horrific for them.
Yeah. Oh, she's had that a long time, and she got better for a while, about 15 years ago, and then I think. Well, I'll just say it. I mean, she's got ME, so and the trouble with ME is, I mean, not that. Lots of people have had ME and got over it and stuff, but hers is so bad that yeah, it's been so bad. And then I spent years trying to get her well and did myself in. Do you know what I mean? When you sort of do everything for them, and it just did me in. Do you know what I mean? Because I had to do everything, and then so I was worn down, and then I had my own issues, and then I sort of got better, and she went downhill. So I thought, we were nearly there, and then I read all this other stuff about it years ago, about 10 years ago about it, and I realized that she's probably not going to get better. So for a while it seemed like she went from a size 0 to a size 12, which was weird, right? She looked normal, and her sister's a social worker, and her other sister, who's retired now, used to run Boots, the chemist. So so like she's got family around her. She basically went from someone who was working, had her own little sports car, worked for the gas board actually, did everything, worked for the newspaper, did lots of different cool jobs, and she was popular, and then she just went to that like within a few months.
Do you mind me asking, Brian, was there any kind of breakdown that she had or anything like that? Did she get poorly and then no, just
the only thing that we can think of was she was in Jamaica on holiday and she fell in a pit of shit just as she was walking along the street. She never realized that this was years ago, that she literally felt that she was covered in it. I mean, not all of her, but a lot of her was covered in it, and she had to hose it all off. So we thought some sort of infection from that started it off. It made her feel not well, and that's the only thing that we can.
And it was literal feces. It was human.
Yeah, it was like a dump at the side of the road. And she was walking along talking to her sister and stuff, and her sister never noticed this hole, and then this hole sort of turned into like a track, and this is where people dumped all their stuff. So that was a strange story.
But you never know what sparks it off, do you? Really? So you start backtracking over every event, don't you?
Yeah, like she's been over everything. Yeah, but we think that's the strongest candidate because that really run her down after that. When she come back from holiday, she was unwell for a long time, and of course that was the start of it. And then her sister got it as well, but her sister got better, and she never. Her sister basically went to bed for 6 months and woke up okay.
Is ME a autoimmune disease? Is it?
It affects the nervous system.
Right.
It degrades the nervous system. It's like, could you imagine aging faster?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. For some people, like people can get when they're 14. Like she started a little Facebook group for people with ME, and so people can get it when they're like 14 years old. And it's often confused with something called chronic fatigue, because they're very similar at first. And for a long time, it wasn't a recognized illness, and a lot of people with ME were fighting to have it recognized. And a lot of people call it yuppie flu, which was associated with the 80s and drug taking and overexertion and that. But Angie has never taken drugs in her life. She's never been a druggie or anything. She just worked in the gas board, had a simple life, and she was the second fastest typist, and she had a really good little job. She enjoyed it.
It's sad. It's life changing, and it saps people of their life. It's just interesting, Brian. You say a sister got it. I'm just wondering if somewhere along the line, it's one of these things that they come to realise is mildly hereditary or is more prevalent in certain bloodlines and families.
Possibly.
I've got to get off this. The internet's really playing up.
Yeah, I keep muting you, Bobby, because you have so much feedback coming from you.
I know.
Take care, mate.
If I fix it, come back in or not. Talking in Discord.
All right, no worries, fella.
All right, see you, Brian. See you.
All right, catch you later, Bobby.
Where did Colin go? We've lost a Colin as well.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't kick you. If you're still about Colin, I didn't kick you. The ruddy cat ran across my keyboard, and as I grabbed it, everything started going mad, and you just disappeared. So I apologize.
Well, not Bobby. Tony is a mad cat man, Brian. He's got 3 cats, and they're either on his knee, on his keyboard, drinking his brew. They're just everywhere, all over you, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have my sympathy, Brian. Anything like that, it is life changing, and it breaks down relationships. So, has your partner now got a carer? Does she have somebody who does a lot of the job for her?
Yeah, me. I do everything for her.
Oh, you do too,
Plus
right.
plus everything else. Pretty much that. But she's really got into a routine now where she has an hour a day, which is pretty good. Where she's in a routine where she's got an hour a day where she can really do stuff, not like a normal person, but she can do stuff. So that's an hour in a day. She can make her tea. If she wants to make her tea, she can make like she can kind of change her bed, stuff like that. So it's been like that for a long time now.
Yeah, so the biggest
Yeah.
symptom is general exhaustion when you talk in terms of
Yeah.
it got confused with chronic fatigue. So she does a job, I'm assuming, and then she's tired. So it's going to take big parts of the day for her to recover.
Yeah, like I used to like one of the things was I thought right, well, right, the first thing I've got to do is get you physically fit, as well. But this is a mental thing. This is something that even bright lights. I mean, not every sufferer of ME will suffer from this, but like bright lights, so she has to shut the curtains and just lie in her bed and just lie there, and she never gets a good sleep. She'll fall asleep and then wake up, so she never gets a proper sleep. So you can imagine how exhausting that is.
Yes,
Our brain will wake her up. So yeah, it's a really strange condition that not everyone's aware of. So I thought I would mention it tonight. I
I
mean,
had
there's a lot of
heard of it, and more of multiple sclerosis. I think the two are so different. Why it's MEMS, but I know a couple of people and that's more not like motor neurons, but it does eventually affect sort of the skeletal. So they end up in wheelchairs, don't they? Basically, with MS, it's
I've got a neighbour with MS, so yeah, that's yeah, that's
Like
a
gosh,
horrible.
you're surrounded by it, aren't you?
Yeah,
my nephew's partner
yeah,
has it, and like I said, I've actually, like I said, I know it's the wrong terminology, but I've actually seen the states that they get into, and it is horrific. It really is horrific, and he does exactly. And I take my hat off to him because he's only, well, she's 27, 28, and he's only 28, 29, and he's been with us what 8, 9 years now. Knew what he's getting into, and he does exactly the same as you do, Brian. So I really do understand what you're going through.
Yeah. I mean, it has its like I don't like. I'm sort of used to it. Like a lot of people will say like I used to work about 18 hours a day, literally, and I sort of worked myself into the ground, right? Because you become exhausted, right? And a lot of people do that, but they've done it all their life. But when you're doing physical work for a man, you do need to sleep and rest, right? But I was doing everything, and plus I was doing my training and stuff. So I would be out on the bike for 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours at night, right? And like that would give her time to totally rest. So I'd be out at the crack of dawn and come back, make her a cup of tea, a bit of toast, whatever she wanted, and it would just go cold. So I'd make it again, and then I'd be off to work, and then I'd be back at 11:30, 12. Then I'd be going in, seeing if she's okay. I'd make her some scrambled egg, because she hadn't eaten her toast, and then she'd eat that, and she felt better by like 2 o'clock, and that was her. She just couldn't face anything. So basically, what she needed. This is what people don't understand about ME is what you basically need is a 24-hour a day slave, like a maid to help you do everything. When you're in that dark place, and
you were trying to do that for her, weren't you? So you burned out. That's too hard.
Yeah. So because if a person, this is the thing, the more you fight ME, what happens to you is the worse it gets. So if you burn yourself out at all, yeah, you've right. I'm tired. Right, just go straight to sleep. Just go and lie down. Just rest immediately. That's how you fight ME. It's the most backward thing you've ever seen in your life. So that's why people would call it yuppie flu, because people would develop flu and cold-like symptoms through it as well. But basically, because they're so run down, they're so worn out, and this is what.
Immune system. Does she pick up bugs easily as well, Brian? Like germs, if there's
Well, yeah, because she's kind of isolated from other people. She's isolated from a lot of people, so my hands have to be immaculate when I go in, and I have to like clean up totally when I go in. So yeah, and everything behind me. So yeah, it's pretty mad because she is kind of isolated from other people. Like if we have a delivery from the shops or whatever to the house, absolutely everything has to be wiped down. So like today, just sitting watching documentaries was great. I was just sitting, I was loving it, So I've had a good day today. But in about I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'll be off again. I'll be back down there again. Because her sister's been round to help her. So that's been nice. Just sitting.
Yeah, a bit of respite for you. How do you deal with that, Brian? Because obviously life is precarious. We all know this, and I speak to several people, mainly
I've
couples.
got no choice. I've got no choice.
No, I was going to say when you come into retirement age, say if you plan a retirement with your lifelong partner and one deceases, I mean, I'm guessing if you're in your 50s now, this, like you say, your wife had a great job. She was, had a sports car, had everything going for her basically, and it's ripped away from you. I mean, you must be a pretty strong person to come to terms with now being sort of a full-time carer for her and trying to get on with your own life as well. That must be hard.
Well, you've got to look after yourself as well. So you get into a routine. I mean, I think at first when I thought about it, I hated myself. For getting, I felt like I blamed myself for getting myself into this position. But then I realised I was being selfish because this was actually someone that loves me and I love them. But I was just looking for answers. I was so desperate at the time, and so I got into that little rut for a few months. Where I just, I was kind of dismissive of our condition and didn't believe it. And I put my hands up. I'm guilty of that, and I felt terrible ever since.
It's not your fault. How long did it take to get diagnosed with ME? Because I'm guessing at the beginning you had no idea, and people might think she's putting it on. And
years. Probably 15 years for her to get diagnosed.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a case of looking after her, and yeah, so her daughter's 30 now, so yeah. So yeah, I mean it's one of those things. It wasn't childbirth. It wasn't that caused it. We don't think it was something else, So because she had it before we had child, so that's how long she's had it for.
Wow.
Like 5 years before it.
So would you mind me asking what age she was when she started getting poorly? Was she a lady in her 20s, early 30s?
Well, she's about my age, so yeah.
20.
No, she was. We were young, So
yeah, no age to start living that way, is it? But like you say, I think you answered it before I'd even finish. You just get on with it because it's the hand that life deals you, isn't it? You have no choice.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's how to do it. Because if you were to sit there, if you look at the old school, they just write, I've got that to do today, and you just get up and you do it. If you don't have that attitude, you'll just fall by the wayside, and you can't have that attitude of, nothing. Something's getting to me anymore. I mean, I've learned that a long time ago. If you have the attitude of something's getting to me, you'll never get through the day. It's just pointless to have that attitude. And it's something that I often say to people. And yeah, things do get to you, but you still get on with it because you can't just give up. That's not the way to go.
No.
So,
Well,
so
I
yeah,
take my hat off to you because we all moan about kind of things day to day, and it's when you hear things like that, it does put things into perspective. And we're also what we've not got, down on ourselves. Really, in reality, if your arms and legs are working and you've got a bit of energy to get up and go that day. I was watching, interestingly, I don't know if either of you guys or anybody in the chat watches the Academy of Ideas channel. The guy's not posted for a couple of months, but his last video on YouTube is the collapse of civilization. And it was likening now to the end of Rome times. And it was saying that when things are plentiful and the common man has everything, I mean, I'd imagine before COVID, most people had enough in the bank accounts to go into one of these bargain stores, whether it's B&M, Home Bargains, make their house look sort of like a little celeb's pad. So everybody's got everything. And then it was talking in terms of like the fall of Rome, people then begin to, because you've not got the same drive to survive, you intellectualize everything. And really, it was basically saying deep down, we are kind of spiritual beings. There is a lot of myth behind what drives us. A lot is misunderstood about the human consciousness. And then, basically, they just intellectualize. And when you do that, you let go of religion. And then who becomes God? It's us. And, I know we're moving away from the government and the Liz Truss thing that we intended to speak about. But I just found this, it's only a 15-minute video if anybody wants to watch it. And it kind of summed up where we're at in today's day. And I think what you've said just brought that back, because we are kind of animals. We are, that part of the reptilian brain that's still very much there needs that. You get up, you go, you do. And when there's plenty on the plate, plenty of food in the cupboards, nobody's pushed, life is luxurious, we become lazy, we intellectualize everything, we lose touch with who we really are. And so I've just decided to talk a bit about, the state of the world generally, which I guess does fall in hand why the wool was easily pulled over with regards to the COVID situation. And I just think people now, and he talked about how easy people are to deceive and push in a direction. And now I feel like a bit of an idiot because I've taken this conversation in a whole different line of topic
direction.
away from
Yeah,
different direction.
You ran
But
away
it
with
was
that
just
one.
that,
Okay.
when you said that,
Brian, you'll have to make allowances for Pony because she's blonde.
I do that.
All right.
Shut up, it's not natural.
My daughter's blonde. It's okay. My daughter's blonde.
Yeah, I do go off on tangents, but no, just interesting what you said. I think basically I was just trying to say, it's got that overwhelming feeling, Brian, that make the most of every day, because we all get in a lull really where, how many people think, I won't be happy till I win the lottery. Now the chances of that, bloody needle in a haystack, innit? Well, why waste your life when your arms and legs work,
Right.
worrying about, I need more. I mean, we are greedy, aren't we? It's part of that reptilian brain to sort of hunt and gather and always have more. But it's gone to levels of, pure, just greed, isn't it? And it's just folded us in on ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to accumulate, but we can't take it with us.
No.
So we can't hoard, but some people do, and whatever, let them hoard away, if it makes them feel happy.
Well, I would say with the current situation, hoard a bit of food, a bit of rice, a bit of pasta, a few tins.
Oh,
you
yeah,
never know if food's going to be on the shelves.
Do what Nick has done and just literally have a great big ottoman filled with dry food.
Don't give me secrets away. Brian will be finding out where I live and coming and getting my pasta when there's no food left, Tony.
No. I'm fine. I've got a boat, so I'll just go out and catch it.
Catch it.
So I don't think I had 2 boats. We sold one of them. My dad had a stroke about 6 weeks ago or more, so what we did was we sold his car, we sold his boat, and now he's got to wait till the 26th of this month see if he can get his license back. But really, it'll stop him from going out and giving himself another stroke. So so lots went on, and then my cousin died. This is stuff you'll not know, but it's irrelevant. But I thought I'd tell you anyway. But it just shows you like things can get thrown at you from all directions, and you think I can't cope anymore. No, that's not the attitude to have. You just move through it one bit at a time.
Yeah. Because you are in the thick of it, Brian. There, aren't you? Really, with one thing and another. Bless you.
Yeah, well, my cousin was ill for a long time, and she died it was just like a month after my dad had his stroke, so that was a couple of weeks ago. So she's just been buried, and yeah, she wanted a burial, and there was a bit of a huff about that, and she ended up getting a cremation.
Oh, dear.
So just financially, just because of everything, and so at the wake, I was, I like to tell you a joke, and I says, right, well, I says, right, listen up, everyone. When I go, I said, just put me in a bin bag, toss me to sea. Bye bye, Brian. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I
that's
say
my
that to my daughter, just pick me in the river. I mean, it's all for the people who are there,
yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it, really?
Well, actually, that is what I have actually. Well, I've already bought and paid for all of that. I am actually going to be buried at sea.
The idea, and I said that the idea of the black bag is that you don't have to look at my bum on the way down.
Yeah, God, yeah, cover that up, please.
Yeah,
Oh, bless you.
yeah.
But you're
Yes.
right, you can't take it with you. So all of this greed, people need to, have a word with themselves, because I always say that, your health is your wealth, really, isn't it? I think it's an age-old saying, because you could have a lovely house, Porsches, bank full of money. Like your dad there, your poor dad had a stroke. Your health
Yeah,
is
yeah.
paramountly everything. If you've not got that, and so many people working themselves into the ground, all the hours God sends, and is it worth it? You've got to have a balance, I think, haven't you, in life, really?
Yeah, another funny thing I was doing was I was giving away computers to people online, and I just needed room. I got myself in a position where I'd been building I'd had computer parts, right, and I'd ended up building all these computers, just slowly over months, and I'd been storing them in the cupboard, and I hadn't been selling them. And I thought, right, okay, here's what I'll do. I'll give them away. So I give them away in giveaways, on YouTube channels to people.
That's
And
really
just
cool.
write name and address, so email me or whatever, and I'll ship you the computer. That's what I've been doing. So even though there's all this stuff going on, I can't take it with me,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to use it. And maybe by 2025 or something, Microsoft won't support the device, but at least someone will have a computer for a couple of years, and it cheers people up. It makes them happy.
Yeah, that's
So
okay. I'm
yeah,
guessing from your name, Brian. I mean, I've always wondered when it's Brian PC. I've thought to myself, because I've chatted to you in the chat, and I've thought,
that
does
that's
Brian
my
work
name.
with computers, or yeah, something in computers? I'm guessing fixing them or making them, or
Well, it's actually my initials. So right, BPC is my initials. So I just put Brian PC at the end, and then put PC because I fix PCs and stuff. So
yeah.
And
that's my hobby. That's my hobby that I do in my spare time. So
here's
don't.
me, Brian, thinking it was Brian politically correct.
Well, yeah, it's been it's been spoken about a lot. Yeah, I do try to be in a way, but what which politician do you follow? How do you get around knowing that this one has the right ideas? So how can you be politically correct? That's my thought on
Right.
it.
I have a couple of questions for you about politicians.
All
How
right.
do you
Okay.
know that it's really cold outside?
Oh, I don't know. How do you know when it's really cold outside?
Because the politicians got their hands in their own pockets.
All right, that makes sense, right? That makes sense.
And
Yeah,
how do
that's
you know if
the
a
version I
politician?
like.
How do you know if a politician is lying to you?
Because their mouth's moving.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right,
well
there
done,
you
Brian.
go. There you go. That they go to a political school, don't they, to learn these things, don't they? To learn political speak. Is that right?
I
From
don't
what
know.
I hear.
No, literally, I'll
My
be honest
dad
with you,
always said
Brian.
that.
I've never voted in my life because no matter who you vote in, they just screw your life over even more. They really do.
With inflation, it certainly seems that way. Though, that's a whole broad subject. I'm not an expert on. That whole inflation thing. How
Yeah.
all I know is that it keeps going up, and we keep getting done over.
Well, the pound's been inflated away to nothing,
Yeah,
isn't it?
about
What were they
Yeah.
saying? It's been not been this low compared to the US dollar since the 40s or something, or 50s, certainly 50, 60
Possible,
years.
Yeah, I was actually
believe it.
watching something on GB News and they showed you a graph over the last, I think it was about 30, 40 years. And back in I think it was, they said the early 80s, inflation was really high. And compared to what today is, it was something like about 6%. But then, like I said, you've got to take in the cost of living back then. And once you actually factored in the cost of everything, what it was back then to the inflation, it is actually more expensive to live today, which is inflation back then was at 6% at its highest. And I think it's something like about 5.5% now or something like that. But the cost of everything that's costing it is actually more than what people are actually earning.
Yeah, that it's worrying. It seems like the world, like, you know, just if you looked at the world 2 years, like 5 years ago, and then you look at it now, you think, what's happened?
Yeah, you can't compare the two. Yeah, they reckon most people live month to month. They only have like a month's month's wages in savings. So, what we class as being civilized, I mean, it's all none of it's reality, is it? We live under this fake sort of we're all civilized. They reckon if you withdraw food from somebody for, is it 72 hours, they turn quite barbaric. I just think, there's going to be a lot of people living out of bin liners on the street. I think it's time we all got extra locks on our windows and doors because, that's coming. If you had to feed your children and you had nothing, you'd be surprised at what you'd be capable of doing. I like to class myself as quite, morally sound. I have a moral compass, and we were brought up and went to church, and we're brought up in the right way. But you'd be surprised if you had to feed your children. Obviously, I'd rob from Tesco first, but don't tell them. But yeah, the world could be unrecognisable again. Yeah, it is scary, Brian. You can't compare the two, say from 2016, 17, really before pre-COVID, to the way things are going now.
Well, look at it from the last 6 months. Now, we were only talking about it, Nick, the other day. 6 months ago, I was paying £1 for 4 litres of milk. That same bottle of milk is costing me just short of £2 now for exactly the same bottle of milk. And we'll take another simple thing. A box of cat food. A box of gourmet cat food, 12 packets. 6 months ago, I was paying £3 for that box. That same box is costing me £5.50 now.
Yeah.
And that's only in the length of 6 months.
How many stray cats did I say I've had in, Tony, to sniff out my cat food? And I joked to my mum saying, they've all stopped feeding the bloody cats. They're all coming in my house, honestly, one after the other. They're coming in and eating my cat food. I'm buying them in boxes of 40 now.
So it's sad. The price of living, and like I said, I don't know what's going on. And they're saying it's because of the war in Ukraine and all the rest of it, but they can't blame all of that on the war in Ukraine.
No.
It's the same as this is a totally off the wall theory, right? So just bear with me on this. We produce our own electricity, so we don't really have a shortage of it. In theory, we shouldn't have a shortage of it. Gas, I understand, because we import all the gas, so I understand that. But we actually produce our own electricity. Now the government is saying, not so much the government, but the power companies and the government, I suppose, are saying, right, what's going to be happening is it's going to be done in blocks of 3 hours, different areas where it is going to be no electric. And here's my theory. With the war in Ukraine and them literally giving us blackouts, I think they are actually preparing us for exactly the same as what was going on in the 1940s, blackouts for air raids and everything. That is what I honestly believe is happening.
It's plausible. You've never mentioned that to me, but I suppose. Buy your candles, Brian. Get loads of, next time you nip to Asda or Tesco, mate, get loads of candles in.
I've got some torches there. I may have a box of tea tree candles somewhere. That'll do me for the night. That'll do for my cooking. My heating. Yeah.
If you can't see anything, just go to bed, and it's an excuse for an extra nap, really, isn't it? Have a bit of a nap.
Yeah, that'd be a welcome nap if I can get a full night. That'd be good. Yeah, I like a good nap.
Well, the reason I've come to that theory, right? I don't know if you've been following this war malarkey.
I've not. I've seen some of it. I have to be like 100% honest here, I've tried to follow it, and there's so much going on that I don't have time to watch it all. You know, like most
Yeah,
of
you're
the
busy,
actual
aren't
news. So, yeah, certain days I'm really busy. There's no time to follow stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you know this, but Germany has just shipped 2,500 troops over to the one just, I can't remember the name of the country. It's just next to Ukraine.
Poland? Is it
Is it
Poland?
Latvia or somewhere like that?
Right.
Oh dear. Mm.
Right. Now, they're saying that Germany was saying that they are bolstering all their troops there, but they haven't said the reason why. So,
Mm.
Well, maybe a show of strength. Often when it comes to these confrontations, sending a message to Russia. Eventually, I think. I mean, this is just my thoughts on it. I think that if Russia doesn't back off, it's going to be all-out war, or it's going to be just so much pressure on Russia that the people in Russia are going to start starving like they did years ago, and we'll just be bolstering that line and then moving into Russia to help those people. That's like we did in Afghanistan, if you know what I mean, which we really didn't. We did help them, but we didn't really help them, did we?
That's what I was going to say. You say like we did in Afghanistan. Well, that was a big fuck up, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just one disaster after another, and
President Putin is bloody insane, isn't he? Oh my goodness me, that guy is nuts.
Have you?
You know when they said the special operation? This is one thing I did catch. Sorry, my dog's running about squeezing his ball. He's a little Jack Russell. He's quite funny.
Cute.
So they did say that special operation. What crossed my mind was, do you know how people like a while back are they talking about? I mean, because I'm clueless on a lot of things. You know, I'm not so up to date with a lot of these things. Are they talking about something that happened where people reckon that all these powerful leaders that have got shares and everything, like Lockheed Martin and all that, they're what to bolster their and earn from war, right? You know, of course, when they've got shares in these companies, you know, they're earning from it, especially when that money's coming out of each country to go into that, because they've got to resupply their own stocks, right?
Yeah,
and if they're resupplying everyone else, so we are getting hit financially with other taxes as well because of that. They might use the gas as an excuse. They might use the electricity as an excuse to bolster it even more. Just like years ago. Do you think that's a possibility?
Well, what you've just said there, Brian, what I've taken from what you've just said there is exactly what I was trying to explain to Nicky the other night on the phone. Now, think about this. If you are an arms manufacturer, you make tanks, battleships, fighter jets, bombs, bullets, planes, you know, or anything to do with battle and fighting and killing each other.
First World War.
Right, exactly, right. So you manufacture all that shit, and all your countries have bought it all. They don't need to, and they haven't used it. They're not going to keep buying off you. Right, so basically, here's my theory on that. It's in the arms dealers' best interest to cause conflict. So you use all your bombs, your ammunition, and a few tanks get blown up, a few planes get blown out of the sky. And so what do you got to do? You got to go back and buy off them again.
Yeah, to bolster your own stocks.
Yeah.
So to pay for your stocks, is it the case that to get these new weapons that they want from these, that they're suddenly using Ukraine as an excuse to fight and get rid of some of these excess weapons? And the reason that we're not fully supporting Ukraine, right, and giving them some of our more advanced weapons is because we've got this old stock of certain weapons that we can't afford to give them because we really want these new weapons that are out.
Well, yeah, that's basically. Well, yeah, you're basically right in a roundabout way. And I suppose if you restructure what you've just seen there, it's like. And
the public's paid for it.
Let's just take BMW for instance. They've got shitloads of the 2018 model 3 Series BMWs. So what do they need to do? They need to get rid of all them so they can restock all the newer models. So basically what to do, well, in theory, get rid of them all real cheap, give them away to, so they can bring all the newer stuff in. And that is basically what you are saying is correct. It is correct.
So see when the people that run the world years ago, we're going back to World War One now, right? You know the old story about World War One. The people in power believed that the public were going to take over, so they sent them all to war, and millions died.
Well,
right?
Yeah, that
there's more to it.
One theory.
Yeah, there's more to it, but it's not so much a theory. It's more of actually what happened in the power, the company of the power moguls of the time, the people who were actually in charge. Some people are saying that they freaked out and believed that due to that freak out that the common man was going to take over the government to get what they wanted because there was far too many men in the world that could literally, cause some kind of revolution. And if you're going back to the early 1900s now, when you talk about the French Revolution, was that far away, and it was taught in history. It was part of people's psyche. It wasn't something they wouldn't think about, and of course, other wars as well. So people will use it. I think that people will use excuses for war, just to, like, for instance, when a priest or a pastor or a bishop or whatever faith, when they go around blessing all the men who are just about to walk over the line, and of course the captain's there with a pistol in case anyone doesn't, go over, jump out the trenches and start shooting the Germans, for instance, right? In the conflict, 1918 or the 1940s, right? Any cowards, you weren't court-martialed. Now you're court-martialed, but back then, you would be shot. Well, you can't shoot them because that's murder.
You're right there. I mean, they just sent wave after wave after wave into machine guns, and if you didn't go, you got shot in there and then. So what chance have you got?
Now, the corridors of power. If you look this up, this is what I find really disturbing, because I looked into some military history, and I did find this story in more than one place. So I do tend to think it's a possibility. No, I'm not saying it is factual. I'm saying that it's a possibility that that machine, the machine of industry, which of course back then it was all about industry. Steam trains, whatever. Britain's well known for it. The industrial age, for instance. So what we have, I believe, is a well-oiled machine that is using people to better something, and it's possibly technology. It's possibly the pockets of certain rich families who are invested in all the right things that we've noticed in the United States, we've noticed it in the UK, and we've noticed it in certain very strange cult religions that have been invested in these huge factories like Lockheed. And for a cult to be invested in things like that and property, for instance, you've got to wonder, well, if they're invested in property, it's surely it's not because, for instance, if we were to speak about, just briefly, if we were to speak about the Jehovah's Witnesses or the cult in Clearwater, where they've bought up a lot of Clearwater, well, they're supposed to turn so much back into the cult. So instead of giving it to the members, what they've done is they've bought property, and they're saying that these members can live in that property, and that's how they're giving it back to the members of the cult, of the religion, of the group. And then they hassle the IRS for so they can get tax relief. Like they'll send in 500,000 or 1 million letters into the IRS complaining, and of course the IRS can't deal with that massive extra amount. So the Scientology, for instance, they had a huge letter writing campaign, and so the whole picture, right? This is the sort of way I'm sort of looking at it, and then you have this Masonic thing going on, right? Now, I'm not against anyone who's a Mason. Good on you. I'm not talking about that. You have these kind of what people would class as conspiracy theories, but we all know exactly what a conspiracy theory is, right? And then we have this very interesting illuminated internet that seem to not feel that they're enlightened, and they can put these things together and come out with this giant picture, and then reveal it to people. Yeah, this is what's going on, and that's what's going on, and it kind of detracts, like all of it detracts away from the human value that we have as human beings. So I think basically we are, like we've been speaking about, lining the pockets of the wealthy. And obviously, if you own something like Amazon, and you have a meeting and everyone's suddenly buying from Amazon because they're not allowed to go out, then that's a great business structure. And of course, someone who owns Amazon should get help to do the right thing if they're distributing to everyone. And these distribution companies, they need help as well. And of course, if it's a virus, then of course, medical companies will get help. What they should have got a long time ago. So everything because of this is sort of went ass backwards. Do you know what I mean? It's things. Some good things have happened, but to sort of waylay them, some terrible things have happened. To waylay them, they've done some good things. Pretty much what they do in war. Are you with me? You follow me on that? Yeah.
I love the way you think, Brian. He makes me laugh, Brian. He's like, I don't know what's going on really, and comes out with this really long, you think the way I think basically, but you put it more poetically. But that reminds me of something I said to Tony the other day about them keeping us continually off balance. Whoever is pulling the strings, whoever really is in charge, they seem to do a really bad deed. It's like the good cop, bad cop. They do something bad. It's like these increases in fuel bills. Then they give you a few £100. So, the government aren't that bad. Maybe they do care about us. Then they do something horrific. And then I don't know if that's exactly what you're referring to, but I like the way you think. And I think you're not too far off potentially the way the land lies.
We're talking about tiny moves, TC. Tiny moves, TC. That's what I'm talking about. They're doing it in tiny steps.
Yeah, exactly, Brian. Right. Think about this. Right. They've upped the energy bills. Right, and they put the fear out that it's going to be come the first of this month. It was going to be everyone's energy bills was going to be £6,500, £7,000 a year. But then the government pulls it back and says, "Oh, we've done this real good deed for you. We've capped it off at this price." Oh, and every single household, regardless how much you earn, throughout the winter months, we're going to be giving you £400 to spread throughout the winter months to pay for your energy as well. So what they're doing is they're putting the fear factor in as much as they can, and then pulling it back and saying, "Oh, look, we're really good. We're even helping you pay for this."
Well, I likened it to Tony the other day, Stockholm syndrome. They talk in terms of abuse victims. They will kind of, I think you know what I'm talking about, and I think that's got a big part of what's going on. I mean, these big governments, whoever is in charge, they hire psychologists who are far surpass any psychologist. I know psychology is a pseudoscience, and we're only at where we're at, but these people, like, I've read Brave New World in 1984 years ago, and they were eye openers. And I think a lot of that is coming to fruition, but it's long since known that. I mean, for instance, when was Orwell's 84 written? Was it in 1948? And he talked in terms of these people will not look up from their devices. And I've tried to get my own sort of family on board with this, and I think it's nuts because they've always watched the BBC News, and I'm the only one who didn't.
It was actually going to be called 1948, but then they changed it to 1984, so it was written before that. Yeah. Amazing insight, right? But yeah, you're right. Sorry, cut you off, but
No,
that's
absolutely. No, it's I find very valuable what you've said, because I'm not I mean, the David Icke thing, basically, Brian, I had a breakdown in 2012. I was in a really bad way, following an abusive relationship. So I ended up at 4.5 stone, and on my knees, I just kept going, 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 and I snapped. Because the help isn't there for recovery, you realise that basically, I mean, if you take, for instance, just to make a long story short, what your perspective of the world as a child and what you're told is, and what actually is, it's the difference. I said to Tony the other day, it's night and day, isn't it? It really, really is. So I think for a lot of people, I class a lot of adults as grown children who still like stories. And I think for you to turn around and be able to go up against everything every caregiver told you, every person in power told you. And I think a breakdown in some ways can be a breakthrough on a personal level, but also you can look at the world, you have the potential. I mean, Jordan Peterson, who I follow, I know a lot don't like him. He talked in terms of, if you have a life trauma and you stare into the abyss and you keep staring and staring and staring and staring, eventually you come out the other side and you realize what your true capacity is as a human being. And I can kind of relate to that. I mean, I try and get my family on board. My dad told me if I didn't have the jabs, I'd be extradited. I wouldn't be able to do anything. I said, I'm sorry, Dad, they'd have to pin me down, big burly men, and make me out. I'm not, you can kind of see things that the average person can't. I mean, Tony have said it can be a very lonely life then. You can meet up with like-minded people on the internet. Other people are on board, perhaps at the same level you are with regards to research and alternate media. But with your family, who are all BBC watching, mainstream media following, law abiding, basically what we were told as children.
bored out their
Okay.
heads. BBC watching. Yeah.
Yeah, propaganda,
Yeah.
crisis actors, etc. I mean, David Icke, I was going to say, there's conspiracy, and there's conspiracy. Icke loses me when he starts going about reptilians. The Queen's a reptile. I mean, all right, you can take things too far, but then if you listen to him in terms of the the banking fraud and the how cash, basically when you take out a mortgage, the money's not there, you just making the banks rich, and how the money system works. He gives that good angle, and he talks about the world being put across to us on a sort of a postage stamp consensus, I think, where you live in this tiny, 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 tiny way, and if you deviate in any way, you're a deviant, basically. And yeah, I'm totally on board with what you said as you were concluding on your last bit. Humanity. My daughter said something interesting, whether she'd read it somewhere. She was only about 11, my daughter Anna, and she said, I see lots of humans, but not much humanity. And I thought, that's bizarre. I know she's into writing. She loves writing books and has always been a writer, but wherever she'd heard it, it clearly struck a chord with the child, and that, I think that sums it up. We're all being made into these psychopathic robots who are supposed to be all about instant gratification. And, when they talk in terms of porn and pornography, it's not always just the rude thing, it's the self-indulging on every level. And we really will, end up finishing ourselves off. In fact, I've been as bad to say to Tony, oh, humanity's disgusting. We should all just flop off the end of a cliff like lemmings in that computer game, because, we're basically all thick and stupid, and let's let animals take over the world again. We all deserve to die. And that is really, really pessimistic. But do you honestly think, Brian, at this stage of the game, even a revolution, even revolting, if enough people weren't spineless and got on board, I think we're too far gone to sort of, and it's sad, but to rebuild the world and rebuild ourselves and find something that replaces religion, so we're no longer God. And that we can actually find a place where humanity does stand a chance. Or do you think it's going to be like the collapse of Rome, and it's sort of like the revelation, the end times?
I need to go to the toilet, but I really enjoyed listening to that. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute.
What do you think about that, Tony?
Well, I've made my opinion clear to you on this on the past, and I'll say it again to you. We, the human being species, are the cancer of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
We are the cancer. We are our own worst enemy. How many more look at within the animal kingdom. How many more take? I don't know. We'll just take something like giraffes. Say, just random. How many times you see herds of giraffes going after another herd of giraffes and killing them? How many times you see herds of elephants going after herds of elephants and killing them? How many times you see herds of monkeys going after herds of monkeys or troops of monkeys and killing them? And
well, they will actually. I think I know what you're saying, but chimpanzees do attack their own for no reason sometimes. Maybe they've got their own reason, but they do.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We are our own worst enemy.
Okay, I'm back.
Yeah, I was going to say, Brian, if you do have to go and tend to your partner, or honestly don't, I'm sure you will tell us.
No, I'm good for another 8-10 minutes or something till about 10, and then I've got to sort of. I'll be going to make sure that.
You thought you got out of that one then, but you didn't get out of anything. I'm waiting for your reply on unless you think what I said was crazy.
Yeah, well, I think I would actually stand on what I said earlier. It's those small increments, and I think things will happen in small increments, and then things will happen in large increments, like something drastic will happen, but the world doesn't want it. The paying public does not want that to happen. So what we have is a media system where, like just from observing it over years now, a media system where, where mainstream media, where it's causing this kind of strange fear to people who are, and rightfully so. I mean, I know people from all walks of life, just like everyone else. So you do hear feedback from other people, don't you? And you'll see comments here and there. If I was moderating a channel, for instance, you'll see little comments and stuff. So you will see fear in people, and a lot of it's to do with fear. But people don't feel fear unless there's something going on. Unless that fear, there's a reason for fear. So
fear makes us stupid, doesn't it? Because anxiety breaks connections in the brain, so it's easy to control a frightened populace, isn't it?
Yeah. So that fear thing, when you see people or you hear people mention it and go, they'll maybe not use the nicest terms, but they'll say, oh, that politician's a loony, or that politician's a loony, or they're crazy, whatever. When more and more people are saying it more often, that there's something going on, and that's what I've noticed. That people are, when you're in a situation like that, it's probably the worst time to be thinking things like that, because what you really need to do is kind of come together and unite. And I don't mean unite in a cult sense. That's not it. That's not the answer. Unite to create something. There will be politicians that will want that in various countries, and other politicians that they want your support, they want your help, they want you to vote for them, of course, and they want just everything that they want. Anyway, but they'll also want. I mean, this is just so simple. They'll also want, next time there's an election after all this. If there is an after all this, right? Yeah, sheeple, right? Of course. So if there's an election after this, they want for you to vote for them again, and because they'll say, I've brought you through this, so they'll take the the credit in some way for bringing the country through this. Like Boris tried to do, or like what's his name, the old Tory fallacy. What's his name? Tony Blair. Yeah, he tried to do it. Who else tried to do it? Margaret Thatcher. Now, she did do a couple of good things, but the rest, crazy. Like she gave power to women. She gave, but she did shut down the mines, and parts of the country have collapsed since then. So thanks, Margaret. But a lot of people were unemployed, and there were the riots, and a lot of crazy stuff went on then. So constantly we'll be faced with these problems that we've got to somehow work our way around and through politics.
Yeah, it's not David Icke's again. What does he name that? It's like problem, reaction, solution. And it's like a pantomime. I call it a pantomime playing out. But at the same time, when you talk in terms of conspiracy, Brian and Tony, you've got to be careful because you can get lost in it. And it is hard. You've got to always say, I have a rational place where you come back to. That's what I say about the reptilians and when it gets absolutely crazy. I'll not get on flat Earth because me and Tony have a bit of a difference in opinion in that. But yeah, you've got to be careful you don't go too far with it. But I'm on board with you. I think the whole thing is set out like a big story, and they know what's going to happen. The psychologists who are hired, who are, like I say, far surpass our psychologists, they know things are played out. And yeah, it was that what you meant? Sorry, the problem reaction solution type.
No,
thing.
no.
Sorry.
I mean, David Icke, for instance. I mean, David, like, do you know how many predictions Nostradamus made before he and he got some of them right, but he made 1,000 and most of them were wrong. The fact that someone picks up on one of them then elevates Nostradamus. The same story with David Icke. Not everything he says, and he says it in such a way that to make him believable, a bit like a charlatan does.
Yeah. I've heard him referred to as a snake oil salesman. So you're saying throw enough shit against the wall and some of it may stick at that type of theory.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And of course, for someone to be a successful writer, you got to remember, is he writing it as fact or fiction? It's just a book. It doesn't mean it's all true. And do we have evidence that the royal family are reptilians? Is that, do we have that? No. I mean, the guys that served with the young princes, I'm sure if they found that the guy was a reptilian, you're talking about earthy guys that come from the council estates.
Yeah, it discredits himself really with that going that far. It does discredit him for the few bits that have come into fruition.
Yeah, so definitely a Charlotte there, but I think this story behind David Icke, what's really powerful and important, it's not that I ever followed David Icke, but I do remember him being mocked on Terry Wogan years ago.
Yes, yeah, in that shell suit. He was wearing turquoise to get closer to God, and he said he was God.
He was wearing a shell suit, that's right. Yeah. No, he claimed he was God. Yeah.
I know. Oh, Jesus was speaking to us.
I have my theory on God. Now, this is going to sound crazy to you.
But also remember, just quickly, just note this in, TC.
Go on.
What it was before that, I also remember him commentating on the television over sport, and he was perfectly come over as a really good presenter. So he had that down years before this came up, and the fact that he has an audience means that people are willing to listen to the most crazy batshit stuff as well as the real stuff, just like maybe here.
Maybe that's the kind of, if he is brought on board as a bit of a psyop or whatever they call him, maybe it's kind of to, it's a guideline to show how far society's come away from reality. I mean, in psychology, they talk about reality testing. Now, all right, I've spoken terms on this channel before. There's only theory of the universe and theory of mind. Anything else is fair game. But if David Icke is one of those plants, I mean, he said his audiences were laughing and he could get 2 or 3 people through the door. Now he's very, very, very popular. Now, is that a sign we're very psychologically unwell now? That we are that off balance? We're leaning towards believing.
No, you know what it is? I think it's a sign that people will believe anything. That's the thing, like if you've ever tried to fool a child and you're in charge of the house and you've had to fool your child to go and do the dishes, for instance, your child won't do the dishes, or if you've got to fool your child into going to school, the government thinks it's that, and it's taken on this role where it has to fool people to get things done. Yeah, that's what I think is going on.
It's easier to fool people than convince them they've been fooled, isn't it? Is it that's that type of thing, isn't it? But I don't know. We're not children, are we? But what I'm saying is, it's like the bombardment of information on the internet now, and I feel sorry for kids for this. I mean, if you think, Brian, when we were kids, there was 3 telly channels. There was just enough information so you could develop normally. I mean, now your brain is not. We're so reptilian still. We're back in the caveman times in development of brain that we can't take this circuit overload.
We allow for anything. Well, yeah, but I wouldn't say anything. But we believe, right? We believe that generally speaking, the country believes that for the last, let's say, 100 years, that the politicians, some of them may not have been right, and that's fine, right? That's okay, right? And those were outed, right? And those were removed from power. Things happened to them, and someone else stepped in, and then they believed that that person would do the right job, or they didn't. But when you say, or we say together, that things that have happened in politics have deeply affected the state, right? The country, and the people, but more importantly, the people within the country. We all understand, and we all see the effects of that. And yet, just like we may fool our children into going to school one day, the country, the government has fooled us into believing that they can lead us out of the issue. So it's not an anti-government thing. It's the people that keep getting into power that are causing us all the issues. And that is the problem. Like, my belief is anyone who wants to be a politician should be removed completely from ever being a politician, because they are self-serving. That's what they want to be. That's what they've trained to
Yeah,
be.
but did I not hear you say earlier? I might be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you said
Yeah.
something about them going to some kind of special school. These people, is it not all
Well, it's
They
just
say
to
nothing
learn.
happens in an accident. Are these people not? It's this. Have you ever heard the saying, like, it's the same face with a different mask, or the same mask with? Do you know what I mean?
Right,
You
so
wonder if it's just all sort of pro. They're just basically a puppet dishing out. Do they really have any saying anything at all? I think
Tony Blair went to Fettes College in Edinburgh. Right. Now, other politicians also went to Fettes College in Edinburgh, and that, it's next to Fettes Police Station down near Orchard Brae in the Stockbridge area. You go further towards the ocean, and you've got a huge field area and a park, and then you've got Fettes College, right? And then from there onwards, you've got a kind of poor area near a poorer area near the some council scheme, and then you've got the sea. So, it's got rich working class all around it, with a big park. But it's a very rich college, and a lot of the people that have led this country recently have went to this college, right? So that it's had an impact. Had an impact on them in the last few years. And those people, for instance, Tony Blair, when he left, he said, "I believe that I was doing the honest thing or the right thing for the country," right? I honestly thought I was doing the right thing for the country, I think was more or less his words there. And he left. And Boris more or less said the exact same thing, right? If you listen to Boris's speech when Boris left. So if those guys are mimicking each other, they went to the same place, right? They did the same thing. We are still in the same position where we're voting for the same parties. Then there's definitely that repetitive nature of we'll let the next one in, see how he does, and maybe then I'll vote for a different party. So you usually get a huge sway when something terrible goes on. You've got a huge sway to the opposite party, from Conservative to Labour. But people will keep making the same mistakes of voting for Labour or Conservative, when the truth is something in between works far better.
Yeah, well, it's the far left, far right type argument, isn't it? You are better off residing in the middle.
I'll ask you this: do you know the legal definition of clinically insane?
Go on.
Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
That's definition of madness. Definition of madness.
Mad, insane, Craig.
Exactly. And when you look at it, people must be clinically insane, mad, because they keep voting the same people over and over and over again and expecting something different.
Yeah, but what choice, Tony? This is the point. Unless we revolt, and there's too many spineless, weak, grown children wanting bedtime stories in this world, we can't do it. And I'd be afraid, because then we lose the police system, the NHS, looting, raping, this, that, the other. It's a frightening prospect, even if you... But then what choice do we have? Because the government have got to go, unfortunately. They've had enough time in power and messed enough up, haven't they?
Well, it brings me straight back to the special operation that we're talking about. you know how people are kind of in this state of fear, and I think we all kind of I've maybe had this thought at some point or another. You see people in fear. You've read 1948, which was turned into 1984, and yeah, you see people. You've seen people murdered horrifically all through wars, and no one really wants wars, but wars keep happening, and yeah, the country's in a terrible state. And even though we may know a lot on some subjects, we don't know everything, right?
No, it's the guesswork.
So the country wants, in some ways, the country wants to keep us apart, and they do it with the rule of law. Now, TC, maybe you could help on this one, because you'll maybe I've looked into some court cases where, or what's happened in some court cases, and there's you don't have to answer right away on this one, where people have had to fight the system to get to be heard, and
Tony, yes.
they've been locked away, or
You're
they've
right.
been silenced.
You're right, and unfortunately, that happens on a lot of occasions. That really does happen on a lot of occasions. I don't want to go down this road because it's so frustrating. It really is so frustrating. And
it just gives us a clearer picture, though.
It does paint a picture, right? I'll give you an example. I don't even know how to put this example, to be honest with you. Have you actually ever heard of Charles Bronson?
Bronson, yeah, I've heard. Yeah, of course, everyone.
Right. Do you know what he was actually put in prison for in the very beginning?
I did watch the story, but it slips my mind. It was so long ago. It was like the 1990s when I watched something about him. He robbed a post office or something. Was that the initial crime or something?
No. His initial crime, no.
That's one of his crimes.
His initial crime was not only, I think it was a 15 months jail sentence. It got put away, and he's never been let out since. And the reason why he's never been let out since is because he has been silenced. Now I know this.
Yeah.
I think I've told Nicky this story, right? I was actually jailed for telling the judge he got more time for stuffing my cock than me doing what he wanted me to do. So I actually got jailed, and I ended up in the same jail as he was in at the time. Now I didn't know who he was at the time, so I'm walking through the exercise yard, and this big hairy ass fucking geezer's in this great big cage thing in the exercise yard, and he's looking at me, and me being me, I was just a cocky little cunt back then, so I was giving him a bit of grief. And this guy was going to rip my foot. I'll tell you what, he was going to kill me. Cut the long story short, and anyhow, I found out who he was, so I apologised to him, and I actually got talking to him. And some of the stuff he was actually saying, and all the appeals and everything else that he's gone through, and no matter which way he turns, it's just literally cut off at the beginning. It is literally, it's like you walking out going to walk out your door, and someone slams it in your face and locks it. You got to walk out your back door, someone slams it in your face and locks it. And that is what's happening. They are being silent.
Bronson's a bit of a household name, isn't he? And I think most people, when they hear it, think monster, but actually,
he's not.
He should have been out a long time ago.
He's really, really not. I tell you what, he is one of the nicest blokes you will ever meet. And yeah, he's done some horrible things inside because he's so frustrated. He is so frustrated because it's, like I said, it's like banging your head against the wall. So yeah, he has took screws hostage. He has took psychologists hostage and shit like that. Why? Because he wants to be heard, and he's just been shut up constantly.
Yeah. Going back to what Brian was saying, were you talking in terms of sort of divide and rule, Brian? Like, I know for years ago the divisions were put in place, and now people hardly even speak to their neighbours. I mean, there's so many things to this topic, but yeah.
Right, going back to what sorry, Nicky, going back to what Brian was saying, I'll tell you right now already. You know who the most dangerous person is that you will ever meet? Someone that's got nothing left to lose. When they've got nothing left to lose, they are the most dangerous person you'll ever come across. Now, what the government is doing, and the state of the government is in at this precise moment in time, It's not just going to be one person, it's going to be tens of thousands, if not millions. Once they've lost their homes, their jobs, their mortgages, they're out on the street, they've got nothing left to lose. That is when you will see
Barbarians.
saying. Yeah, that is when you will see the 1600 riot, the 1600 revolts and stuff like that. That is when you will see it, when nobody's got nothing left to lose.
Well, usually these things happen in small chunks, don't they? Before they go full blown. I mean, I'm not saying they are going to go full blown. I don't want to make the public, anyone listen to this, have any fear of anything. But I'm not trying to promote that either. But you do see it in chunks up till it actually happens. So you'll see small riots here and there. You'll see civil disobedience here and there. You'll see people acting out for a little while before it, and we've had all that. Not saying that's going to happen. It just gives you the impression that something like that may happen. And you've seen lots of protests, all through London. At the seat of power, and of course, a lot of that's been quashed as well with the with the recent issues that we've had over the last few years. So no one's been able to properly bring anything like that together to rebel against it or to speak out against what they believe is going on. Because for the first time in a very long time, maybe even in history, people have not been allowed out their house for years. Around the country, I've got not they're allowed out their house, but they're not. So they've had to look inwards, look to the internet, look for other sources for information. Had maybe even read books, done lots of things, joined other people socially, and shared thoughts, feelings, ideas. So yeah, you will of course have groups spring up, friends form, and maybe develop from those ideas that they formed over that time. I mean, that's one thing I have noticed about socially on YouTube through panels and stuff like that. I've watched some panels and I've seen them do things like that, and whatever the general thought of bringing these ideas together and then creating something has actually started to go places, even if it's on a small, if it, in a small way. It's gathered over time. It's gathered momentum. Much like people were laughing at David Icke at first, and they were maybe laughing at some things Brian Harvey was saying at first, and then when all the bits fell into place, and then they maybe laugh at people like Matt Taylor at first, and other YouTubers, other kind of niche YouTubers, who are trying to, or they maybe even laugh at Charlie Bronson, whoever it is that they're laughing at, and then suddenly when you find out these things are happening, it really opens your eyes, opens your mind up to other things. So even if a psychiatrist says to you, I mean, like for instance, if you're in Scientology, for instance, your enemy is your literal enemy is a psychiatrist or a psychologist. They think they are the devil, in that kind of structure. But in the mainstream, maybe not so much. And what you have is psychiatrists coming up and trying to make this to make sense of it all, right? Some of them are scared to speak their mind. Some of them are just observing, and some of them are rubbish. They don't know. So yeah, we have all these different kind of ideas and stuff. Some of them, yeah. Hi, Florence. Some of them have been sent from other places, like Florence, for instance, to other channels, and some people have different agendas, like David Icke's agenda, Brian Harvey's agenda, the political agendas. So we are influenced by our surroundings. And that. So when Nikki said earlier, to come back to normality again and kind of, not go away too far away from the sort of normal, be grounded and stuff. That's always a good idea, but it's okay to talk about these things. Just
Yeah.
don't try not to harm people in the process. That's the sort of way I think about it.
Well, like I said, right, if you look back just 2 years, 3 years ago, March 2020, from then, people have lost their businesses, they've lost their homes, they've lost their jobs, they've lost family members they couldn't say goodbye to, or whatever else. And it's still carrying on. And to this day, now people have, with a stroke of a pen, trust wiped out for over 40% of everyone's pensions. She's done it so that people are going to be losing their houses because the inflation and the mortgages and shit like that's gone up absolutely unbelievable. So once everyone has lost everything, this is when you are going to see the mass riots. And believe me, it is going to come. It is going to come.
Well, if I think it happens at this rate, then certainly something's going to happen. Something terrible is going to happen, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, certainly something really bad's going to happen if things keep happening at this rate. People are going to say, "Right, I've had enough. Right, I give up. Right, I'm moving the country." People,
Right.
the peaceful people might say, "Right, I'm moving to the country and pitch a tent and wait it out."
Right, Brian, you must be old enough. You must be old enough to remember Maggie Thatcher when she was in power.
Oh yeah, I remember
Right.
coming into power. Yeah.
So you'll remember the extortion tax she brought in.
I was young at the time. I was actually there was a what's his name? John Mulvey was he was a Labour MP at the time. John Mulvey. He was a neighbour of mine at the time, and he used to say some terrible things that I never really understood. So I was very young at the time when she came into power, but not too young that I didn't sort of. It wasn't like I couldn't catch up on some of the stuff, but I just was not for a long time. I was not into politics, so a lot of that stuff I would have missed. Some of it, the big things I would have caught. A lot of the small things I would have completely missed. So
Well, the reason why I say this to you, Brian, you must remember and I'm referring to poll tax.
oh yeah,
People first bought it, and then it was starting off with little groups until eventually it was mass protests in London, and eventually they had no option. They had to get rid. They had to do that, and this is where it's going now. At this moment in time, this is where it's going. This government again is just going to lead this country into civil disobedience, and I mean not just you odd little person. I mean tens of thousands, if not millions, will. Once they've lost everything because of what's going on, like I said,
right.
they're the most dangerous people you will ever come across.
Well, a few years ago, America bought lots and lots of bullets, and I wonder if we did the same. They wouldn't tell us, would they? They don't have to tell us how much ammo they're buying, do they?
No, they don't.
So, and obviously in America, they bought hundreds of thousands of family coffins. So they must have been expecting something to happen. Of course, the virus thing happened, didn't it? And who knows what else is going to happen? And someone laid some prediction online somewhere along. I mean, I'm just like going into the recesses of my mind here from years ago. Someone put a video up on YouTube, and was it some other site? It was some site anyway, and it showed that people were talking about this video will get removed. Yeah, I hope they don't, Florence. I really don't. I hope that doesn't happen because that is devastating, to everything. But someone was saying something along similar lines of, there's going to be a huge, giant virus. The world's going to be split into two. Now, you got to remember, some people, in the States, this was an American. Some people in the States, they, like you talk about 40% of the I mean, this is just a generality. I'm not saying it's factual, right? So don't quote me on it exactly. But 40% of America believe in the Bible and God, right? That's a huge amount of people. And yet, if you go to Russia, I'm using this as a reference, not as a factual thing. And then you go to Europe. There are some words that have been written in the Bible. Some people actually have been working towards something like that happening. This huge war, and when you've got massive amounts of people believing that's going to happen, and in the UK, it's a much smaller country, but after the Second World War, people left the church in droves. And this is not about religion. This is about what happened. I'm not going to be talking about religion itself, but certain verses in the Bible, people believe in that, in the inherent word of God, right? Whatever that is, and whatever the 3,000 or 4,000 denominations of Christianity you have, for instance, and of course you have the teachings of Islam, which are in the Quran, which are in the Hadith, and there's just so much to it. But basically, if you look at those two books as the same book, and one came from the other, and they're all intermingled in some way, which they are actually. When you have all these people in the world, and you have all these different complications, for instance, when you have, you have the Jewish faith, for instance, and there's several different groups inside the Jewish faith, and some of them are extremists, and some of them are really hardcore. And
be careful, Brian. You'll be getting called anti-Semitic. Just watch your language. I mean, I've heard all about the Sabbaty and Frankist type thing. You're talking about them being the extreme ones, yeah.
Well, when I say extreme, I don't mean, they're to the letter. They're to the letter of what their book says. So there's a lot to learn from this. The point being that when you have millions, perhaps 1 billion people who believe something like that, and they're working towards something, that's a lot of people working towards something, that believe that will actually do things, small, tiny things, to make that happen. That's a seventh, of the planet, basically. Right? If you can imagine that amount.
It's like a shared mental illness, really, isn't it? It's like a shared psychosis.
Kinda, yeah. So I'm not saying that these people are ill, of course, but and I'm not saying they're wrong either. What you believe, what you like. I'm not saying that people can't have faith. I think people should have faith, or believe in something. Believe in themselves, believe in something. Have something that helps you through the day. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, Florence, I hear you.
Oh, you need it.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Brian.
So yeah, I should. I've got to leave in 5 minutes, but just quickly, there is something about that which is having an effect on the world around us, and of course that will affect the people that do believe this. So more power to them. If they believe that gets them through the day. Those that don't believe it, which is slowly increasing, but it's nothing like those that do believe, according to the statistics. Okay, so the powers that be often, for like going back to the First World War, have used that old trumpet to blow the trumpet, to go to war, since the days of marching 7 times around the city, allegedly blowing the trumpets, the walls fell down, right? So that's in the Bible. You can read it if you like, but it's all there. So people will rally certain causes. This is a trap that you shouldn't really fall into. People will rally to certain causes, and that's not to say that any of us are wrong or they're wrong. I'm just saying people. So always careful who you follow. That's my advice to you. Careful what you read. Yeah.
Well, it's like on a one-to-one, just a personal basis, an interpersonal basis. Its intent is everything, isn't it? And it's all right to get involved in either a YouTube channel or on a bigger scale, a religion. But I always ask myself this question now in life: is who benefits, or what is the end goal? And that's the intent section, I think, is where is this going? Does it benefit me as an individual on a spiritual growth level, or say if it was for your career, if it's financial gain, it's not hurting the world or anybody on a larger scale. And I think all you can do is that, Brian, is do the best for you and yours, as in you and your family, but obviously at the same time, not hurt anybody.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah, so I think with all that sort of said, Dan, I'll head off in a minute. But just quickly to finish off, TC, thanks for having me on, and we had a really good chat. I should have came on a couple of times before, just to make it a little more interesting and a little more.
It's a pleasure. It's been an
Ryan,
absolute
you have
pleasure.
actually, I don't know, I actually remember you when I first started doing live streams, when I first set the channel up, you used to come on regularly then.
He said you were Scottish. I think you mentioned Brian was Scottish before.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot more. As my daughter says, there's I've got rhymes in my locker, so hopefully that's a little joke, by the way.
Rhymes in the locker.
Yeah, I've got rhymes in my locker. Like, yeah, okay, Beyonce, let's go. It's my daughter.
How old is your daughter, Brian?
Well, she's 30 now, but when she's young,
but
you always remember
Yeah.
the funny things to say, don't you?
Yeah,
Hilarious. Of course. So yeah, there's more in the. I can reveal, we all can, it's not about, I'm not saying it's not about me, but we can all reveal things about. So, if you want to come on the panel and have a blether, have a good old chin
come
wag,
back. It's been enlightening. I think there's a few books in you, Mr. Brian PC. I think I think there's a lot to come out yet. So definitely, it's been brilliant. Come back on. It's been
okay.
Lovely.
So yeah, that's I've got 2 minutes to clean up, and I need to head off. I'll to let her know, but thanks for anyone who's listening to this, and I'm sure, right, we can all teach each other something here, and I'm more than happy to listen to it all. So good luck, everyone.
What I will say, Brian,
don't lose heart.
What I am going to say, Brian, it has been brilliant speaking to you again, and when you disappear, so am I.
Okay, dokie.
Adios. That's not. I feel really bad now. What are you saying? Do I smell?
No, Nikki. I was up on the phone with you until what time this morning?
4 o'clock this morning.
And I was back up again at 8 o'clock this morning. So I've had very little sleep myself. I know you haven't.
I think, guys, I think Florence Pickle's going to show us our apple catchers. I'll see you later, guys. Big reveal. I'll see you later.
Look after yourself, Brian. You're a good woman. That's lovely. Cheers to that.
Night, night, Brian. You take care. And I will say the same for everybody else. Thanks for coming. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for everything else. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening. And night, night.
God bless. Night.